I tried to rush. All right.
Did you drive really fast, Marlene?
Huh?
Did you drive?
See? No.
We all
This is
set?
the evening.
Good to go.
If you only knew,
You called me.
Well, you can arrange.
if you only knew what it took for us to get in here.
Good, 4 of us. Oh, that's still a quorum, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Good evening. It is 7:05. Welcome to the City of Manistee Planning Commission meeting of May 4th, 2023. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Here.
Commissioner Smansky,
Here.
Commissioner Weiner,
Here.
Commissioner Memberto,
Here.
Commissioner McBride,
Here.
Commissioner Yoder,
No, Roger.
Chair Whitliff.
Here, thank you. Approval of agenda. At this time, the Planning Commission can take action to approve the May 4th, 2023 agenda. Motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Bob, second.
Second.
By Shelley. Any discussion? None, please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky,
Here.
Commissioner
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Conflicts of interest. At this time, is there any commissioner with any type of conflict of tonight's agenda? None? Okay. Thank you. Approval of minutes. Planning Commission can approve the April 6th, 2023 minutes, meeting minutes, excuse me.
I'll make that second,
Make a motion to approve.
Who's got the motion?
Shelley.
Shelley.
Kelly? Second by Mick. Discussion? None? Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky,
Yes,
Commissioner Weiner, Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Correspondence? Is there any correspondence?
None.
None? Good. Public hearing, Z23-02 HDC guidelines, number 2 signage. So we will open the public hearing at 7:07.
And this was a pretty straightforward amendment that's not changing the intent or regulation of the zoning ordinance, but just referencing the Historic District Commission guidelines number 2 signage within Article 15 and Article 21 of the zoning ordinance. And essentially, it just calls out within the C3 district, that article of the zoning ordinance 15, that where it says signage requirements are subject to Article 21, signage requirements in the historic district are subject to HDC guidelines number 2, and then also putting it under exempt signs for CHDC guidelines number 2 for exempt signs within the historic district. So the HDC did amend their guidelines to be a little bit more flexible with temporary window signage, and we felt that it was appropriate to also make note of those in the zoning ordinance, so those that are looking for those regulation, can see them in more than one place. So yeah, I did not receive any written or verbal public comment on this, and then I guess if anyone else from the public wants to comment, but that's a synopsis of the public hearing tonight.
All right. Okay. Any questions by the commission?
done for me.
No.
None?
No.
Okay. Any public comments on the public hearing, excuse me? None? Okay. 7:09, we will close the public hearing and move along. Public comment, excuse me, on agenda-related items. All comments and handouts from the speaker at the podium will go through the chair. If there's any interaction between the podium audience, there will not be any interaction between the podium and the audience. These rules cannot be followed. The chair can terminate this meeting. So, go. New business, Z23-02 HDC guidelines. Number 2, signage. Is there a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion that we approve the signage ordinance as written.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Motion by Mick, second by Shelley. Any discussion? None? Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Samansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes. Thank you. 515 Maple Street dumpster waiver request. Please come to the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Cassandra Ferguson. I'm a real estate agent from Essential Real Estate. I'm also a property manager for Manistee Rental Management, and we manage 515 Maple Street. So I'm here on behalf of the owner. Theron Ferguson is also the property manager. He apologizes for not being here, so I'm here in his place. And I'm gonna hopefully answer any questions that you might have and just explain that the owner is requesting a waiver for the reasons he explained in his letter. He believes that an L-sided enclosure would be sufficient, and this would also allow proper snow removal, and which he didn't mention in his letter, but I know just from being on the property, the parking lot is very narrow, and so the dumpster already is kind of set off to the back corner. If we have to move it out too far to put a full enclosure around it, it's gonna impede the ability for the tenants to park in there.
Okay.
Can I ask how many tenants there are in this property?
There's 7 units in the building. I guess I could rattle off a number. Some of them have 2 or 3 tenants in each unit, but,
So the parking lot is always full?
yes, sir,
That's
it's
what
always
I'm
full.
trying to get to, okay.
Yeah.
I see that I drove by today and I see all those bushes that used to be around there are gone. That used to screen that dumpster, they're all gone now.
Yes, yep.
I knew the previous owners before the previous owners. So I know what that building is inside. And it is a tight fit.
And I can also add that Theron had called me right before 5 o'clock, and he did work with Republic to try to get a letter from them because they felt that the trucks would have an issue too with the 4-sided dumpster enclosure. And I had mentioned to him that that had seemed to help the case for other property owners who came forward for a waiver. He did explain to me that there was some staff turnover and that the letter that they were told they were going to be given was not given. And he was, pretty worried about it and seemed to be working tirelessly on trying to get a letter from Republic. So I reassured him that, if he explained that to the commission, hopefully that would be taken for what it is. But if anything, you guys might look to table with getting that letter. But I just wanted to provide that explanation, just as he did to me, that it was something that they were working towards getting, and it was something that they were told they were going to receive, and ultimately it was not received in time for this meeting. So,
Thank you.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I like it because, he solved the problem. And rather than just asking for the waiver, but he solved the problem, so, I'm happy.
Me neither.
No, like I said, he cleaned up around the dumpster, took a lot of the brush and closure out of it to give it a little more, I see where it gave a little more room for him to move it. And he's got some of the dirt moved for preparing for a pad, I saw that.
Yeah.
So, he's in progress.
Good.
No problem with it.
Any other questions? Marlene?
No, I think if we table it one more meeting, by then he should have a letter from the Republic.
Okay.
I don't really know that we need to. I think the two-sided, this isn't, again, this is one of them that I had to look for because it was never really visible to me. It's not one of them that sticks out anyways.
Well, it does
So-
now, since they cleaned it.
Well, yeah, right. But before this,
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah.
it wasn't one that I said, well, this is a really ugly thing here. I wouldn't want that across the street from my house. That was not one of the properties that I was concerned with. So I think as long as they have it shielded, I don't think the neighbors are going to be complaining.
You practically are a neighbor.
I know.
You think by
Yeah, it's
not
kind of like
having
midway
that-
between your house and my house.
Yeah.
You think by having that would set some kind of precedence for somebody else to not concede with the,
Well, again, I think my whole thing is what we wanted to do is fix the problems and not necessarily cause new ones. So I don't think that, you know, anybody was, that had a dumpster issue could present. In fact, I'm surprised there's a couple of them that I thought would come to us and they resolved it internally, which is okay. But I would have been lenient on a couple other people that went through a lot of work to get a dumpster enclosure put into their property, so.
I like the resolution that he came up with, so I mean, I honestly, I don't think we need to table this and push it off, so.
And he is trying to get a letter from the Republic on it.
Yeah.
Which puts a lot of weight onto it.
Right.
But I just hate to see it delayed anymore, especially now that he's got it all cleaned up. I'm sure he's just waiting for approval so he can move forward with getting the enclosure partially
I
done.
mean, if he can supply the letter to Katie,
Absolutely. We'll forward
Okay.
that once we receive it.
okay, very good.
I'm good with that.
Okay, any other questions? None? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, guess I'll ask for a motion to dumpster waiver for 515 Maple Street, and with the addendum to pass on the letter from, okay,
From Republic.
thank you, Republic, so, when they do get that, so. There's a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Bob, second
I'll second it.
by Mick. Any further discussion? None, please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. Neighborhood Enterprise Zone, Tracy Davis, Housing Coordinator. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Davis from Housing North, and I'm here to talk about the neighborhood enterprise zone that's being proposed. We're just in the exploration stages at this point. So in 2019, Rising Tide did a report with recommendations, and one of them included having a neighborhood enterprise zone. And that was brought before City Council, which had been accepted, and then COVID hit. So I have been hired in the last 6 or 7 months, and the city manager had asked me to move the idea of the neighborhood enterprise zone forward and explore those possibilities of establishing the zone in Maxwell Town and adjacent. So we're gonna refer to it probably in other documents as Maxwell Town, but we know that this is adjacent sections to Maxwell Town as well. So you can see the map that has outlined the area. The, neighborhood enterprise zone provides tax incentives for the development and rehabilitation of housing in areas where it normally would not have occurred. So the city council is our local unit of government that would decide if, and recommend that this would move forward. But an NEZ, as they call it, really spurs the local rehabilitation of houses. It encourages additional development and growth in residential housing. And the purpose for that really is for spurring the growth of year-round residential housing. What happens is there's a tax break for anyone that receives the NEZ certificate, and just because you're in the zone doesn't mean that you automatically receive the certificate. You have to apply after we establish the zone. You'd have to apply as a homeowner, or someone that owns a rental in that area would have to apply for an NEZ certificate. So the tax abatement is at 50% of the new structure that they may develop or any repairs on the home. So it's not the entire home, it's the new portion or the new rehab that they've done. And that would be up to 12 years. So, and I say up to because the council will have some discretion to decide what those number of years may look like. And once in a uniform manner. So moving forward, if they decide it's 10 years, 7 years, it could be based on whether it's a new structure or a rehab structure, the number of years also. But what I here really today to talk about is at higher level is looking at the zone that's being proposed and does that fit within our city's master plan? Does that follow suit with what we're looking at? And I do know that our city is really looking at blight elimination, and I think that this would help in one aspect of that. With the neighborhood enterprise zone, what I'm also working on is looking at ways that we can incentivize and provide grants to residents in that area, working with local banking institutions to see what kind of products that they can offer for home repair that aren't the conventional loans that a lot of people in this area would not necessarily qualify for. There will be plenty of people that will, but there also, we want to make this something that anyone might be able to apply for. So I'm also looking for CDFIs and other avenues to help with funding so people could access utilizing the neighborhood enterprise zone. As you can see, the zone is a total of 292 acres, which is well below the ACT's guidelines of 15% of our residential areas. So if we wanted at a later time, if the council and this planning body determines it is within the directive of the master plan, we could come back at a later time and propose additional zones if this is a successful thing. But this is just our test with Maxwell Town and Maxwell Town adjacent. So really what I'm asking is that if you could look at the master plan and see if this fits within the plan and then make that recommendation, if so, to City Council. And I understand I'm not expecting you to do that tonight, so I'm hoping to come back at the next meeting and see if you've had an opportunity to move this project forward.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Looking at the map.
Sure.
You're going down 9th Street, the center, 11th, and that. Why not take it to 31 completely on that side and just follow the boundary of 31 down to 12th Street?
So are you,
Instead of having those jogs in there.
because when I was driving that area, that looked like, for the one section was where Family Fair was, so that's not eligible.
No,
That-
we're north of Family Fair.
So-
North of 12th Street, between 9th and 12th. You've got.
Where it
those
jogs into Cedar
Or jogs over to.
Center, sir.
Yeah, because there's houses down from center to 31 in there.
I can move that.
Yeah, 'cause it would make it more cleaner, I think, if you followed 31 to 12th Street.
And then exclude that area where
You're-
medical care and
Yeah, you
family.
can still
Yeah,
have it down that, but that'd make that look, because those are about, those are 3 or 4 blocks in there that are being exploded from it. And this would make more, I think, a more cleaner boundary. The US 31 is the boundary, and 12th
yeah, I can do
Street.
that. That's not a problem.
That-
And it's a simple thing to move that boundary, and it's not gonna make really that big of a difference in terms of our total acres. And again, we're just in the discussion phase, so making changes, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm talking to your group and
I
city
know-
council.
You know what some of those houses look in that area, and those could use.
Yeah.
They could use it.
There's quite a few just in those couple
Yeah.
of little blocks.
And that's why we also extended, the plan from Rising Tide said Maxwell Town, but that's why we really expanded it, because that was such a small area. We really wanted to give people the opportunity and expand this resource as much as possible.
I like it encompasses the whole east side of the city, so.
And that's really, you could, instead of the Maxwell Town, you could say, you know, the east side.
East of 31.
You're basically looking at almost the entire district, so, yeah. I think it's a great idea. It's something we've discussed at the planning for as long as I've been on this commission. And the hope that I have is, as you work forward, the missing piece is the ability for a homeowner to buy a property that needs TLC and then be able to get reasonable priced mortgage.
Right.
And right now, there isn't any. Right now, if I buy a $40,000 property that is a real fixer-upper, I have to have deep pockets to make that work, because the bank is gonna charge me 11% or 12% interest.
Yes, that's why
I can do better basically going and getting a loan off of my credit card.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
So the problem or the challenge is getting some of our lending institutions to be able to say, you know, I'll give you the money to, and they use these in Detroit, they use these in St. Louis big time, and they were called restoration mortgages. So you could buy a $40,000 property, you had your 20%, but then the bank would look at, okay, well, if I loan you $100,000 on top of the 40, I want to make sure that I'm going to get my $100,000 worth.
Right.
So they had created a process where the bank paid the bills as the work was completed. So they weren't just giving you a check for $140,000 and seeing you go off to Mexico.
Well, and that's some of the discussions I'm having with the banking institutions here, the credit union, but also then trying to be, like I said, creative with other grants that we could have, doing things with CDFIs, there's a rural agricultural grant, so a variety.
Middle?
Yeah.
80,000 for missing middle?
So there's a variety of different pieces that I'm hoping to put together by the time we might have the zone that we could offer as different products for people to access.
So is this a chicken or the egg kind of a thing? Do you need the zone to get those products, or?
I'm working a little in tandem, but really until we decide that we're going forward, it's just conversations that I'm able to have. I'm not able to bring any other substance to the conversation, because as a whole unit of government, they may decide that this isn't right for our city and we don't want to move forward on it.
What would be the downside?
From my understanding in conversations, the biggest thing right now seems to be the administrative time that it might have once the zone is established. I have all sorts of information about the processes for people to fill out applications and what the applications and policies need to look like, but I think that is the concern right now, that there isn't enough necessarily capacity.
Administrative for the city or for homeowners?
For the city. Because I could help owners walk through the application, not necessarily, I could give them resources for funding. I can't help them walk through getting a loan or a grant. The grant, yes. But that's really what I'm thinking, what has been shared with me is the concern at this point. So I am talking with other cities that have had NEZs and just trying to gauge, how much staff time does that really take? What does it look like? What percentage?
And is there grant money to offset an additional position that might fund?
Yes, we are going to be applying, I believe, for that. I have talked to Bill about that, so we are in the process of helping with that to establish this, to move it forward. So I believe so. We haven't obviously applied yet, but there is a rural readiness grant that we're working on, and this is going to be our pitch for that grant.
And I understood too, part of the reason why it's the 50%, so that half of the money that you're putting into that home basically adds to the tax roll to be able to support the additional labor required to be able to manage these processes.
Right, and there is, so if in the middle, if you were granted a certificate for, let's just say the council decided it was 7 years, and 5 years in after you've gotten a certificate, you've done your, whether you've built something or rehabbed your home, you decide you're selling it. So that certificate would then be transferred with the sale of the home, but there has to be an additional inspection, and the certificate has to go in front of the city to approve the transfer of the certificate. So there is those options to do as well. So it's long-term. And then once that designated year expires, that full tax will then be available for the city.
How does this enterprise zone interact with, because there's a chunk of low-income houses that is in this zone. How would that?
So when I was looking, are you talking about at the top of?
Top of the hill, yeah.
Yeah, so I did carve that out because they would not be eligible, because that's a whole nother ballywhack.
Actually, on the other side,
Your zone.
in there, Viner, on the west side of Viner is some low-income housing.
Yeah,
So tell me where, so I stopped it at like 17th Street and
Yeah,
jogged.
Yeah, but 15th Street, Vine,
Yeah,
straight up.
15th, Maywood, and Vine, there's some low-income housing in there too.
it's all in there, yeah.
that's part of the scattered housing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't look like the ones across the street, but they've been there.
Okay, yeah, they would not be eligible for that. I mean, it could still be within the zone. I might just carve it out, because that gives us extra if we want to do a zone on north side or Washington Street area
Yeah,
in
'cause
the
there
future.
shows some scattered houses in a big block, all over the place.
They're not necessarily together.
And that would be okay. I'll just make sure that I'm not, if there's more of a cluster along that edge, make sure that that's not included. If there is other homes in that area mixed in that aren't the Housing Commission scattered sites, then I would want to include it so that they might have access. So I'll do some digging on that, but anything that's a scattered site with Housing Commission is not eligible to participate in an NEZ.
And also, if I could, just the US 31 corridor, it's commercial. Commercial has no benefit in an enterprise zone, correct? If commercial operations,
Not
unless they're housing, correct?
Well, there is you're correct. So in this, what we're proposing, no, there is a section if we wanted to do an enterprise zone, for example, downtown, which for our purposes really doesn't make sense. There is a little different rules and regulations that apply, but we're really just looking at this
Housing.
for the residential housing. Yeah, we're not looking for anything that's commercial to be participating in.
So basically, where the Indians Clinic is right there, that's how.
Yeah, that would not be included.
Right now, it's in the zone, but it would be.
But they wouldn't be eligible to receive a certificate.
Right. But if they wanted to turn that into housing, then.
Absolutely.
Have that opportunity.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Would the Habitat houses up on Maywood, would they qualify? There's 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, there's some farther south than what the boundary is in there.
There shouldn't be any reason why they wouldn't qualify.
Now, I have a question, but this goes to Mick, because you were on council. What about the small city lots that the city has scattered all over? I know they tried to sell them before. Could that be rolled into it some way?
It would be eligible, yeah.
It would
So
be.
somebody could, literally buy and develop.
I mean, or add,
Goal.
yes,
So,
add
yes.
to,
So
it was if this was a two-part question, but to add to somebody's property.
So, so the city's property is in, so right now the land bank, they've transferred that to the land bank so that,
All of it?
not all of it, but they've transferred 2 or 3, I'm not
Some
sure.
of those small parcels.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
there's quite a few of them in the town.
But those that, so the land bank is working on one that there was a fire in, they're demoing that. So that, for example, and it's on Kosciuszko, which is in this zone, that would be, and their hope is then, we're going to sell it to someone to develop housing. So that would be eligible for,
Well, there's a few of them that the city had that basically are unbuildable, but they adjoin parcels that are already have built on. That's what I think Mark's going at.
Exactly, yeah.
Ones that are unbuildable.
Small, yeah,
They're
just maybe
small.
Tiny
20
little
feet.
ones, yeah,
So-
they're not full-size lots, they're just parts.
okay, yeah. So if it's in this zone and they want, someone would come in and develop housing, then yes, that would, it would.
But
Or sold.
you could put housing on those because they're so small.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm thinking,
The thing of it is, would it be advantageous to that person that lives next door to it to acquire that to add on to their?
I mean, they could.
Especially now through the land bank, it would be
Yeah.
an easy buy.
Yes.
It would be an easy buy.
That's the way to get rid of all these, well, not all of them, but a lot of the city lots that
Yep.
need attention.
Love, yeah.
The only other thing I would have to make sure is that when you're dragging your line, you've got a line right through Morton Park. I want to make sure that nobody thinks they can develop on the park.
No.
Okay,
So tell me where,
it's
It's on
right
Third
on
and
the
Hancock.
north.
Where you got the extension of Ramsdale Street going up.
Yeah, that little,
Third and
little
Ramsdale,
corner
yeah.
on the very north, the upper right-hand corner there. That line that's going through that grassy,
Going right through the middle of the park.
it's going right through the middle of the park. Actually, more than the middle of the park.
So the Sibbin Street, there's houses and there's a small
There's a couple houses on Third.
on Third, but the
Rest of
rest
it
of that
is
is
Morton Park.
Morton Park.
yeah, that, it wouldn't meet the eligibility guidelines
Right.
for their certificate.
Oh, it doesn't really,
I just
Yeah.
want to make sure nobody thinks that they can.
Yeah, no, that,
Okay.
there is no, and what I'll possibly do is just look to make sure, I don't want to create any impression that that's what we're going to do, because that's not what we're doing there.
Yeah, and there's just everybody that would look at that line and they would think it's going through
Yeah,
the park would be all.
yeah, that's the bitter part of that,
You
And
gotta think about what the people are seeing.
Yeah, and actually, where that part of the park is actually would be nice to build on.
Yeah, but,
It's nice and flat, and yeah, it's, I just want
no,
to,
that's not for sale, that's not where,
I just want to make sure the park's protected. so-
There's
It
no
is.
right field.
No,
I used to play baseball down there.
there's no
right
fight field, you're right.
dog park there, so.
That's it. yeah.
Okay.
The only other is there anything that the planning commission can do to support this moving forward? To show that, there is a need and a support coming from our group.
so I do think so one of the things I need to do within the guidelines is show that there is support through the master plan. And if you're able to do that as well, and Katie and I have talked about that she didn't seem to think that that was an issue. But if you're then able to have those findings at that time, share the recommendation would be to move forward to the city council. Then when I do one of the final presentations, I can be accumulating that, yes, it fits in the master plan, the planning commission is in favor of this, economic development is in favor of this, and here are all the other things I've ticked off the list.
And I can put together, I'll do my own staff review of the master plan as it relates to this. And I can also kind of craft that as like a recommendation letter, if that's what you guys prefer. And so I'll draft that and have it put together for next month's meeting. And then I would just ask of each of you to review the master plan as it relates to this, and then just provide any comments that you have to me before or at the meeting, and we can modify that letter. You know, we can discuss and modify that letter as you guys see fit, and get a finalized version to Tracy after the June meeting.
That sounds great.
And I'll make some of these adjustments with the map,
Okay.
so that you can have that for the next meeting too.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tracy.
Do we don't need a motion or anything on this, do we?
You could do a motion for staff to work on a letter of support and recommendation. I think that would be appropriate, and then we can bring that to the next meeting.
Is there a motion?
Motion that we have staff send a letter that we approve of this project.
Okay, second
Second.
by Bob. Motion by Marlene to approve, second by Bob. Any further discussion? None, please take a roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberto,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Zoning amendment to parking in C3 district.
Yes, so I know this memo that I provided to you guys was kind of a lot, but it was brought up at the zoning board of appeals meeting, the last one we had, that we could, you know, potentially look to, or I guess the zoning board of appeals was kind of requesting that the planning commission look at the parking requirements as it relates to hotels within the C3 district, given the requests that they had heard at our last meeting. And the discussion kind of involved the idea that with parking only being required for hotels, motels, and residential use condominiums, they just wanted the planning commission to look at, you know, is the intent of that for larger scale developments and not maybe for something like a boutique hotel when we don't require parking for restaurants, a lot of other uses that exist downtown, that would it be appropriate to exempt parking for hotels under a certain size? And within this memo, I also wanted to call out that the DDA is having their, you know, their public input sessions for their streetscape plan this Friday. I know that that's something that's going to be underway. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline looks like, but I was informed by Mark Miller that they're going to be doing a parking study in the downtown area. So that's something to consider with pursuing amendments to the zoning ordinance at this time. Is it going to be something that's just going to be, you know, looked at again or revamped when that streetscape is done? And then another thing that came to mind with talking about parking in the C3 is that recent discussion with the city attorney had made me aware that residential use condominiums, how we call out condos as requiring parking, essentially we either need to require parking for all residential uses or not. Because when someone chooses to condo an existing residential unit, it's not so much a change in use as a change in ownership. So in a sense, our zoning ordinance supersedes the Condo Act by making that requirement when it's not a true change in use. So they're kind of grandfathered if they don't have parking and they want a condo. For example, that did happen at one of the properties in downtown. That's what kind of spurred this conversation. It was an existing building with existing apartments, and they were looking to condo those apartments. And with this regulation, my first thought was, okay, they're required parking, but with conversation with the city attorney, it's not really something that can be enforced unless we're requiring parking for all residential uses. So that's something that I think we should tackle regardless of the other hotel parking in the C3. But I just kind of, you know, it was kind of all the same topic of discussion, so I included it all in this memo. And then lastly, I just wanted to note that if we are going to look to pursue parking amendments for like boutique hotels or hotels of a smaller number, I didn't know if it would interest you guys to kind of canvass city council prior to putting time and effort into amendments if it's not something that they're going to be on board with. So that's kind of my spiel, and I'll open it up to you guys for discussion or questions.
I actually think they should check with the city people, because we ran the same thing with the short-term rentals. And we came up with it, but the city,
Yeah.
yeah, why put all that work into it if they're not gonna support it?
So that's something I could do. I could get on the agenda for an upcoming council meeting and just kind of present, you know, this memo or maybe something a little bit more simplified just regarding the boutique hotels and get a sense of their feelings on that, and then bring that back to you guys before we try to pursue anything further, if that's something that you guys want to look into at this time.
We
What do you
get,
think?
we get a lot of complaints at the senior center about downtown and no parking and having to walk to things. And a lot of them say that store owners and their employees park on the street that takes up parking for customers and stuff, or you want to go to the movie, you know, all those spaces are gone. And I don't know if that would tie in with this.
Well, when, you know, you figure if you're eliminating parking for smaller scale hotels, I don't think that that means all of a sudden we're gonna have a bunch of them pop up, but you are, you know, alleviating parking requirements for additional uses. So I don't know that it's going to, you know, alleviate that issue. Kind of on a side note with that, I know that Chief Glass had mentioned recent determinations by the higher courts on how they can kind of like track and ticket parking violations, like with the chalking, that there was a determination that came in with that. So I think they're gonna try to ramp up enforcement of the 2-hour parking downtown, given the recent court decision. So hopefully that will help with the, you know, because I imagine that a lot of those people who use the 2-hour parking maybe park for longer than 2 hours. So
Before they took the Riverwalk, and there used to be all those employees parking down there.
okay.
That's where it used to be. They put all that Riverwalk in there, went all the employee and owner parkings. That's where
Yeah.
they used to park, that's where they used to make the deliveries.
So that might help if that's something that the police department is kind of ramping up on. I know that, yeah, Chief Glass had mentioned that. I'm sure he could provide a little bit more information on that if you had additional questions. But, yeah, I mean, if another use is allowed to be exempt from parking, it's not going to, you know, on face value, it's not going to allow for more parking, but I don't think it's going to, I don't foresee it being something that would create a huge additional issue. We don't have many boutique hotels downtown. I don't think they're just gonna start popping up, but just kind of like the intent. Right, and that is what,
Restaurant below it, so that's gonna create a. lot of
right, and
parking.
that's the property that actually sparked the discussion, because they did go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance for the 5 parking spots that would have been required for their 5 hotel rooms.
And that,
Go ahead.
I think that's the way it should be, because you're talking about overnight parking. You're not talking about somebody going into a restaurant in 2 or 3 hours. You're not
That's a
even
good point.
talking about employee parking. You're talking about somebody that's going to be potentially there overnight and quite often.
That's
or
also
in
a
one
snow
day.
removal problem in the winter.
And in the wintertime and all of those things. And because, especially now, because we're looking at streetscape and maybe changing the environment of how people park and where they park, I think this wouldn't be the time to be spending a lot of effort on changing the parking right now.
I do like your point too, that regardless of scale, we're talking about overnight patrons. That's something that I didn't really think
And
about
that's what
prior
this,
to
that's
this.
what, you know, why you would go for an amendment and go through the Board of Appeals. That's the appropriate way to be able to look at it and say, well, because I'm looking at the impact of 5 rooms, not the potential for 55 or 155. There is a lot of vacant
Upstairs there.
upstairs, and there's a lot of vacant behind. Because remember, we already passed an ordinance that said that you could have residents behind
Lower story
retail.
dwelling units.
So now we'd make this appealing. We could very quickly create a parking problem for the city. And until, you know, again, maybe we need to acquire more parking, you know, public parking, or lease public parking if we have more of it.
Or a parking structure of some type.
Yeah.
Now, like the guy that want to buy the bank building and that second floor, put a banquet type room up there, and that would be a lot more people parking on the street too. So you keep adding all these different ones, and the space is limited to start with.
Yeah, the city really would need to think about acquiring additional land for parking in order to be able to create some kind of opportunity for hotels in the downtown, my opinion.
Like you said, I mean, we've just got one coming in now, but there's lots of room for others to pop up along the way. And a lot of people like staying at the smaller hotels like that, especially right downtown.
Like Frankfurt, they have that one parking lot, and they take a shuttle. They take people downtown, pick you back up, and take you to the parking lot. Might be another.
Right. But this would really involve us, the city, having to acquire real estate in order to make the next, in order to have something like this happen, we have to have additional real estate for parking. My opinion.
Well, Division and River,
See?
Division and River where the old gas station was.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Or the yard outside of the Ironworks building, that would be a big parking lot.
Where Lane had his memory lane.
Oh, yeah.
Or the
I know that's
property from,
tried, but I'm sure that they would.
Consumers Power,
Maybe, so, yeah, exactly.
That big open by the Legion.
next to the Legion. So, but without that, I don't think we would be doing the city any justice to pursue any kind of an ordinance change. Just too much happening at once and missing pieces, and that would be what I would suggest.
We'd be almost banging our heads against the wall until we see what they want to do.
Well, streets,
Say it
If it
5
takes
times
as long as-
fast.
can't say it once.
If it takes as long as the last streetscape thing they did years ago,
Yeah, let's,
we're not gonna see it for a few years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
let's see what they have to say tomorrow, so.
okay. Motion on that, or do we let it
Well,
go?
I just wanted to gather, so it sounds like the sense of the commission is to not touch parking as it relates to hotels right now. But could I ask for your idea with exempting parking for residential use condominiums? If you feel that we should look to require parking for all or eliminate that requirement. I will say right now, the upper and lower story, all other residential uses currently do not require parking in the C3. So it's only the residential use condominiums. The upper story dwellings, lower story dwellings don't require parking. So,
My opinion is leave it alone because you already have a legal review, but if we,
the legal review was that we either need to require it for all residential uses or eliminate it for all residential uses regardless of
One would be segmented out.
condo, because it's not entirely applicable to residential condos at this time. So I can't really apply the regulation unless it applies to all residential uses.
Condominium Act, and it is a major pain in the regular land division. If they went straight subdivisions, they're a lot easier. Condo requirements are out of this world. It's like-
but I still think it goes back into, we can't make a decision on something we don't know, and there's too many changes, especially with.
Okay,
With how the streetscape is going to be organized.
okay, yeah. And I can take that back to the attorney and maybe have him put together, like something tangible for you guys to look at for his legal opinion and recommendation on that as well.
Because it's the same thing, you convert and then you do, and you convert and you do.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, I'll talk to George about it and then I'll see if he can't provide you guys something that might make you feel more comfortable with going one way or the other, just specific to condos at this time, and I can bring that back to you next month.
Okay. All right. So no motion on that, Katie?
Nope, no motion is required if we're not acting on anything right now. It was just a discussion and we'll move on from that.
Okay. Next, bylaw amendment, RRC Board and Commission, training and strategy.
Yes, so I had some time to go over some of our RRC ongoing tasks, is kind of what they call them on the RRC tracking site. So one of the documents that was provided by Pablo, our RRC representative, was a board and commission training strategy. It was like a 9-page document that just kind of highlights the importance of setting training goals and gave recommendations for annual training goals in hours for all of our different boards and commissions and what those trainings could look like. And then one of kind of the requests or recommendations of the document was to amend the bylaws to have a standing agenda item at each monthly meeting so that commissioners can and council members can go through and state any training they've attended, which I think is actually a good idea. We do that at the County Planning Commission because it can also help staff with tracking training of commissioners for year-end reports and reviews and such. So that's a really simple thing with amending the bylaws. And then also incorporating into the bylaws an annual review of training goals, which is, again, to me, another simple thing. At the organizational meeting every year, we review the bylaws anyway, so it could be really easy to just say, hey, what's everyone's ideas for training this year? Is there anything anyone wants to attend? You know, if you want to send a representative to a conference. I know we don't have a large budget with for training for the Planning Commission, but I think that if it's shown that you guys are like maxing out that budget every year, you might get a little bit more and be able to send more people to conferences or trainings or whatnot. So following this memo, you'll see my draft amendment to the bylaws with red text. I also added in there, well, I don't think correspondence was supposed to be read. I'll make sure if that was in there before, but I just noted a couple agenda items under 3.9 order of business that were not listed in our order of business that we typically do have on the agenda. I know the presentation speaker was kind of a newer one, and I'll ask George about that specifically if that's appropriate to include, if it's not, you know, if it's at most meetings but not all. And then the conflicts of interest, I know that's something that's been on the agenda for a while, but that wasn't included in the order of business. So, and then you'll see the meetings and trainings attended by members. And then on page 6 of the bylaws, I felt it was most appropriate to add it under annual review of bylaws, using kind of the same language, annual review of training goals. The commission shall annually review their training goals at their regularly scheduled meeting in January. The annual goal for each commissioner is at least 4 hours of relative training, and that 4 hours was a recommendation by RRC. So that's the amendments to the bylaws. It's pretty simple and straightforward. If you guys feel that this is appropriate, I would ask for a motion to approve the draft bylaws. I'll do a final review with the city attorney, and then it would be council doing the final approval of those.
Okay. Any discussion?
On where she brought up the part about the relative to 4-hour training, you're seeing a lot of organizations being pushed by the state that just this October, firefighters have to get continuing ed training documented. As a medical person, I've got to get documentation. 2 years ago, surveyors had to do it to it. The engineers have to do it now. They've changed it where we have to document our continuing education stuff, or else we don't meet the requirements they want now. So basically, they're trying to bring everybody onto the same wavelength on it. You're going to see it happening even on the state level eventually. So.
Well, we have been documenting doing the online training. So, I mean, it's just continuation.
Yep.
But it's.
Yep, and we report that to RRC annually. I had put together the 2022 report, you know, a couple months ago and put in whatever trainings you guys had attended. And so this will just help with, you know, tracking those things and making sure that everybody's staying on it and constantly thinking about training, you know.
I got a quick question. Could this be applied to all the other commissions?
That is the
and
recommendation.
council?
Yes, the board and commission training strategy recommends for the Historic District Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Commission. So I took amended bylaws to the HGC yesterday. We have a ZBA meeting coming up this month. And I know I need to talk to you about that.
By the way.
Wait a minute. So I'm going to present that to them at that time. And then it also recommends, I know, Nance, I got you with that. The DDA and council, I think, were the other two within the strategy that were recommended. But yeah, they're like, do it for anyone and everyone. It's a good practice.
My second part is, can they kind of like follow the same, we have a really good agenda, and I would really
Yeah.
like to see all of those items, like conflict of interest on
On
everybody's.
all those commissions.
Yes.
Because after having gone to a few other commission meetings, I'm going, how can they do that?
Yeah, and I can,
Well run.
I can talk to Bill about that. I'm hoping that this can kind of be used as a template for the other
Yeah,
boards and
I
commissions that
really
I don't
think it should.
facilitate. And then, yeah, making sure we have conflict, because we've been putting that in our agenda, and it's like, add it to everyone.
We're the only ones.
We did it recently in HGC, because we did have, it was kind of because of a specific applicant, because Catherine Kenny's on the
Yeah.
HGC, and then we had Ed Kritzkowitz come forward, so it sparked in my mind, oh, we should add this to the HGC agenda as well. But yeah, I think it's completely appropriate, and making sure the bylaws are up to speed with the order of business and everything. I'll make that recommendation to Bill.
That's
Okay.
good. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Nick, you got anything?
No, I'm good with what
I like it.
Bob?
Looking good. It's good, you know, everybody else is they're pushing everybody into this stuff. I'm expecting to see it come on a federal level eventually yet too. And it pushes hard enough. But we get in line for it now, it's gonna be, just normal, everyday business for us.
Let's be ahead of the curve. So, Shelley?
I have nothing, I like it.
Hey, Marlene?
No,
Okay. I think it's wonderful, so it's needed.
we need a motion.
We need a motion. Motion to,
I'll make a motion. to
I'll second.
approve.
motion by Mick to approve the changes, second by Bob. Any further discussion? None? Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes,
Commissioner Smansky,
Yes,
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes. Motion approved. Old business, we have none. Public comments and communication. If there's anyone in the audience that has any comments, please come to the podium, name and address. You have up to 3 minutes. None? Okay, move along. Staff reports, issued permits and business registration.
Yes, so I had put together the land use permits and business registrations for you guys last month. I did keep just land use permits and business registrations on this table, but then I included sign permits for you as well. And I included the report that I typically give to the Historic District Commission on their approvals. So they're kind of broken out by category, but these are all the permits issued in 2023 to date. And if you guys have any questions on them, I'd be happy to go over those. I'll just kind of give you a minute to look through if you had marked any that you wanted to ask questions on.
There was one that I had. Excuse me.
look.
last 2 pages.
Maybe change the order.
One you have for, on 5/12/22, a library maintenance and repair. Is that on the main building or is that on the little house or?
Let's see, 5/12/22, okay. So maintenance and repair, that was for some tuck point brickwork, and repairing the front steps. And I know that they were kind of crunching to get that permit because they had a guy who was, you know, it's kind of a specific trade. And then he was injured in that time. I don't know what kind of happened since then. That might be something that they need to reapply for if that hasn't, I don't think that's taken place yet. I don't think the stairs are repaired, but it was the stairs and then some tuck point, that's the right term, right, for the brickwork?
brick,
Yeah. So I'll follow up on that one though, because yeah, they may have to reapply if that work hasn't been done yet or they don't have it underway in the next 6 days.
I have a question. The outsider,
Yes.
457 River, what is that?
So that is a new proposal, a new use really. It's going to be, and I can send you guys the plans that were presented to the HGC. It's really cool what they're proposing. So they're gonna have food to go essentially. I think they're gonna have pre-made meals, but then they're also going to have like raw meats and vegetables and foods that you can pick up and cook yourself. And They're gonna have like barbecue supplies and things to that effect. And then they're revamping the whole parking lot to be a patio space.
They're already
So-
advertising on Facebook that they're gonna be open soon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because they got approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
uh-huh.
it's right
Downtown
across from the marina,
delights.
So they're really looking at the
Okay.
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Shuffleboard under the,
That was
under
pretty
the
cool.
There we go.
flooring. They found
Okay.
2 shuffleboard.
Okay.
And I did,
That's cool, yeah.
I did notice that they're trying to put the old car entrance back up on it
Yes, so they got approval from the HGC. I don't know that there was, maybe there was like more of a bigger door there, so that's what they kind of proposed to the HGC. It doesn't match exactly what was there historically, but they're pulling out a couple of the windows off of the parking lot to make a big garage door so they can have like an indoor, outdoor, have it open air for the patio.
Brad Doors
Yeah.
used to be on Water Street, and it used to be just showroom windows where the parking lot was.
Oh, right, yeah.
too. Last night when I went by though, they've got
Yeah.
it framed those for doors to open off.
Yeah,
Yep, so that'll be a garage door, and then people will be able to go in and out from the patio.
Used to want front of Water Street, and toward the west was always like a showroom windows.
Kind of like Ford's Garage. You ever been there? Mm-hmm. That's kind of a cool restaurant.
Yeah, I'll send you guys, they put together a really nice PowerPoint presentation for their Historic District Commission approval that highlights everything, and I'd be happy to send that to you guys to look at.
Yeah.
Would love it.
So I didn't see anything about Fracano's. Can you update us on what's going on?
I got a question about that yesterday. I'm not aware of anything going on at Fracano's.
Well, it looks like
so-
they've got some significant issues on the backside.
Something about a deck extension?
Well, that was their original proposal. I just hadn't seen anything, but it looks like they have some real erosion problems.
Oh.
And from the back end of Fracano's, and I just wondered if they were waiting to make adjustments because they were still acquiring that property from the city, or
Yeah, I think that's been kind of put on hold. I'll have to look at their,
that because there was that whole park thing.
right.
But it looks like there's some issues on the back
Okay.
end of it. And-
Yeah, we haven't been contacted by them, but maybe it'd be worth reaching out. Yeah, especially for soil erosion, more so, to make sure things are stabilized over there, if they're not really proposing anything at this time. But yeah, you're the second person to ask me about that. So I'll reach out and see, make sure that they're squared away. Yes.
Do we have an opening date for the Golden Stag?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, but they've got their business registration, they've got their sign permit, so I would imagine they probably want to be open before it starts getting warm out, you know, before summer
What about
break
the chocolate
starts.
store?
Chocolate store, I know is, they are working to be open very soon because they ran into some hiccups with confusion with building permits, with, the building department thinking that they needed Historic District Commission approval. But they're only doing interior improvements at this time, so I had emailed Safe Built and let them know. I was talking with them yesterday though, and I know that I feel like they said they wanted to be open Monday, but don't quote me on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then today I had somebody ask me what's going on with Goodies. Apparently, they thought that maybe there were new owners. They were talking about putting in some kind of like a coffee lounge kind of deal.
That one hasn't been brought to my attention yet.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything either, but
Yeah.
they apparently were told. Oh, that's all.
I hope so.
Yeah, they were talking about putting in couches and little booths instead of. and-
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yep, sign me up.
Yeah, so,
Excellent.
I don't know. That's just a rumor at this point, I guess.
Okay. Anything else, Katie?
Nope, I don't have anything else on the permits, if you guys are all good. Let's see, I do have a couple things to update you on I'm not sure if everyone made it to the open house for 155 8th Street, but I made it out there just a couple days before, so they were still working on finishing touches, and I took some pictures of the units to share with you guys. They've satisfied everything with their special use permit, and I'll be closing that permit out. So that's viewing from like the fourth unit to the road. But yeah, they did a really nice job. This is from the corner.
Yeah, that's great.
I kept telling Lisa, I'm like, this would have been the perfect type of apartment for me to move into when I was forced to buy a house moving here a couple of years ago. Like, this would have been really ideal. They did really nice finishing touches. Everyone's got in-house laundry. So they did a really nice job. I'm sure things were looking a little bit more finished when they had their opening house as well,
Looked really
or the
good,
open
and they're-
house.
They're anxious to do another project, so.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So,
Good,
yes,
good.
I just wanted to provide that to you guys, just a brief update. And let's see, I do have some of Bill's weekly updates to go through with you all. You may be aware that Kevin Kriebel, our building inspector, had taken another position from Safe Built. So I think right now it's Kirk Briggs is back, which I have not had the opportunity to work with him personally yet or previously, but you guys might be familiar with Kirk Briggs. I think he administered for the city a little while back. They're still working on 1001 Kosciuszko, as Tracy had said, working with the land bank. Let's see.
Bless your cat.
And then I think I had updated you before that Chief Cameron was done, had retired with the fire department. I know that they have picked a new candidate and they're gonna do like a open house, or like kind of like a meet and greet for him and the department this weekend or coming up. I can't remember the exact date, but
I think he said Saturday.
yeah, is it this Saturday?
He was at city council.
Okay.
I think he said Saturday.
Yeah, so he's eager to start working in the city from what I understand and wants to, get a chance to know everyone. I'm not sure how open that open house is. I think they're trying to keep it just to the department and like council right now, maybe not to overwhelm him with his first meet and greet, but I'm sure there'll be other opportunities if that one isn't open to this commission
Is he
to
on the
meet the
fire
new.
department now, just moving up, or is this something?
No, he's been
random?
brought in.
How's that guy coming in?
Yep.
I know last I knew it was still pending, but that sounds like now it's not pending anymore.
It sounded like he still had one more interview to go through,
Yeah.
from what I heard last night.
Okay. And then I know there's been talks about the First Street Beach concessions. I know that individual has been trying to get a liquor license to do like frozen margaritas and stuff. I'm not sure exactly where that will go, but that's something that's in the update. Fireworks stand was approved again this year, same location. So we'll be seeing that pop up closer to 4th of July. 2023 Kids Safety Day is June 3rd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So the police and fire department will be providing safety tips and engaging with our area youth at the Armory at 555 First Street. The city picked new entrance signs and they're working with Spicer to get those up as soon as possible. I think that'll look really nice with the new entrance signs. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see those yet, but I can probably get an image of that and send that off to you guys.
Entrance to what?
To the city. So like where that little Lions, like all the like nonprofit, right in front of the Family Fair
The other one over by,
gas station.
Service
Yeah, all the
club
service
sign.
club sign.
But only one
okay.
of the service
Yeah.
club sign, the one that's right by Family Fair. They're gonna relocate and put the monument sign.
Yeah, so like a nice, like, welcome to City of Manistee monument sign with landscaping and stuff. So I can probably send you guys
I think I may have.
the rendering of that.
It's coming from the south or?
It's gonna be just coming from the south, welcome to Manistee, and then it does have a little, like, statement on the back. I can't remember, I think there was a couple options of like, we'll see you again, or like, thanks for visiting, or so, I don't know what they ultimately.
Up by M55.
So
Yep.
There'll be another.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
on each end of the city.
Cool.
Let's see. I think that was about it from the updates. And then one final update that I wanted to give you guys. I'm not sure, I mean, I'm sure you guys are all aware of council's budget, approving tentative budget last night. And it looks like the city is going to pull the planning and zoning in-house into a community development position or department, I think is the idea. So we're anticipating having our contract until September with you guys, and then it'll probably be someone else at that point. So, yeah, I don't know what that's gonna look like,
I don't like that.
but, yeah, so,
Can't believe that happened.
yeah. I mean, I think it's a direction that the city wants to go right now, and I see that vision. I'm very much comfortable with the county, so I don't think it will be me as an individual, or obviously Nancy, but we wish that person the best,
Nice.
you know, with taking that on, so.
Well, both Bob and I expressed our opinion to Bill one night.
Yep.
Strongly suggesting that we keep everything the way it is. Everything's working. We have a great working relationship. You guys have the infrastructure.
Yeah,
And my fear with the city is that that person will not have any help.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
happened to the last person.
Yeah, Denise.
I think it's a really big undertaking, and
A
I,
one-armed paper hanger and
Right.
and it has been expressed to me that, you know, the city would love to see me apply, but I don't know that that is an undertaking that I personally want to tackle
And
either.
if you are considering it, I would talk to the predecessor from the city.
That has also been recommended to me.
And have a sit down and,
Yeah,
She could fill in a lot of stuff.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, like Mark said, him and I had a real, well, we were over about an hour and a half with Bill on that.
Yep.
yeah, so I don't know, I had kind of made that known to the HGC yesterday because I don't know how aware that commission would be of this decision, and I felt it was appropriate to, you know, kind of make them aware, and I felt it was the same for you guys, so, yeah, we're anticipating fulfilling our contract until September 30th, and then it looks like that position will be pulled in-house, so.
So they did approve it.
Yeah, the tentative budget was approved last night.
I don't like it.
No,
It's wrong.
very.
And if you do apply, we'd love to have you.
yes.
But,
I appreciate that.
but
But
you
don't
need
do it
help.
without help.
You need help.
I don't go
Right.
with her.
That's right. You have to go as a team.
Team, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't understand the rationale behind that.
No.
but, you know, hopefully it works out for the best and that vision is fulfilled, and whoever, you know, takes on that role is successful in the role. I, you know, only wish the best for the city and that person. But I guess at this point, we can just hope and kind of speculate and see how it goes.
Does that affect you and Mike and everybody in there?
Yeah, so our department has been talking about what we might do in lieu of the city contract, and there are ideas with, we've had other townships approach the department wanting zoning services. So it kind of opens up the door for the county to look at other communities within the county. There's been a lot of talk about expanding recreation planning and really implementing the countywide recreation plan, working with the Recreation Commission. So the county does have ideas. They've reassured me that I will not lose my position with them. So, yeah, we'll just
They're
ultimately
already
take it
lining
in
up jobs for
another,
you.
yeah, we'll take it in another direction and see where it goes. So, yes, I just wanted to give that to you guys, and I don't have anything more. It's kind of, I know, I should have had one more update to give after that. But, yes, so that's all I have for you guys.
What was the vote on that?
I looked at
They approved the whole,
They improved the whole budget.
the whole budget.
Okay.
Yep, and
all right.
Councilmember Pratt was not present,
There was,
and
He wasn't there
Cindy
either.
wasn't
And
either.
yes, Councilmember Lumberg was not present, but then everyone else voted to approve the tentative budget.
well,
And they were well
Yeah, they-
aware that that was part of that budget that,
From what I understand, yes, there was a work session, and then the previous council meeting, Mike and I had attended. Neither of us were asked to speak on the contract or anything, but it was brought up, some of the concerns that have been expressed here, and ultimately, they chose to approve the budget.
I
Anyway.
went to the work session and it was just kind of, it was just kind of glossed over. And it actually kind of left me with the impression that you guys would still be there, but there would be a third person in this building to help interface, and obviously I misunderstood the whole thing. Because I'm not happy with this.
I guess we could resign in mass.
Well, my turn's up this year anyway, so.
That
We'll
would
see.
give them a little bit of a eye opener.
I'm sorry that happened.
I don't like,
Well, I guess we can all call Bill. I mean, there's nothing, I don't know what can be done. I don't know if that can be overturned in the
Well, it's
budget.
a
It can be
Yes,
amended.
so it could be amended.
Can be-
Certainly can
Budget.
be-
And it is
Budget
they
item.
approved the tentative budget, which goes out for 30-day review
Right.
so there's some
after,
comment.
yes, for public comment through this month.
So, I guess we have our work cut out for us. Yep. So if each person could contact Bill?
Yep.
Now, could we make a recommendation that we retain the contract with the county for planning? Is that,
I don't see why
Within
we
our-
couldn't. I don't see why we couldn't on our own.
Or do we do it together? Can we do it?
can we do it together?
I mean, I think as a commission, you guys can make recommendations to council.
Be like we made that last letter that we all signed.
Right?
Oh, yeah, that worked so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or as individuals, you know, I think either is appropriate.
I would do it individually,
Yeah.
so I think we attack in mass. So-
I do remember one comment at the work session that they were talking about the turnover that we've had in city planners, but this is just them making us have a turnover in it, and it's kind of
And
ridiculous. at this
enforcing
point.
it.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, you know, having a department to, like Mike has been here through the entirety of the city contract, so I can only imagine how much more difficult that might be. I think staff turnover is an issue across the state, and I imagine beyond, that people are just willing to, you know, get their training, get up and go somewhere else. So I don't know that that's going to be something that's resolved with taking it in-house, but again, you know, all I can say is I hope for the best for whoever takes on that position, and I hope it's not too much of a burden and that they can just rock it and run with it for the city. So,
I don't think
Then I don't think they're gonna be able to do that. I think the only thing they could actually do is get somebody to apprentice for quite a while to learn the ropes and everything else before they.
Yeah,
can
it's not a
correct.
plug-and-play system.
yeah, and the beauty of having it through the county is that you have depth. So if you don't understand something, you have somebody to rely on.
Right.
So you have residential knowledge within your organization that we're not gonna have anymore. And it's gonna,
Well, and she can give guidance on what all the other local communities are doing. If we have questions about ordinances, if we have questions about things that need to move forward, she's got the information.
Because you'd be losing a lot of contacts.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely take if this thing flies, we will definitely take many, many steps backwards. So, it's not gonna be fun.
Well, with all the new things coming into town and all the, the structure changes and everything else, and then to start with a whole new person who's not from here, doesn't know what we've been doing and stuff, that's a big step for someone coming in.
Well, they have to hire somebody first,
Yeah.
even if it does get to that point, so, again, we go after it. So, a couple military guys, know how to infiltrate, so.
Hear the other cell phone in my house to start ringing quite a bit.
Yes. Yep, it will.
It won't be mine that'll be ringing.
Right.
Well, we'll do what we can. Correct?
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Nancy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Oh.
did have one more thing. I'll end this on a lighter note.
Okay, good.
Mark Miller had sent out or the joint meeting survey. I think he said that, Shelley, you had responded. I think he just sent it to your city emails. So I have the email flagged to forward out to all of you again and send to your personal emails. But essentially what he's doing for our RRC ready redevelopment sites, I think he had done this in the past, is kind of getting us, instead of holding a whole joint meeting work session to like talk about what everyone thinks for the 5 top ready redevelopment sites, he's doing a survey, and then we'll have a joint meeting to discuss the results with council. So that is coming up. We have that scheduled, and I will send out, forward out his email that he had sent with the survey and the meeting date for that.
Okay.
You send me a hard copy.
Yes, and I'll get a hard copy for you, Marlene. Yep. Okay, and that's all I have for you guys.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy?
No, I have nothing.
Sure.
Yeah,
All
at
right.
this point.
Except the worst she had for you when you were called in late.
Well,
But I called in.
Oh,
he did call,
he did call.
but that's okay. It took us 20 minutes, half hour to get in, so.
Yeah.
Wow.
If he'd picked me up and he said, yeah, I want to get there early.
Yeah, we could,
Too.
well, he couldn't have gotten in.
Watch, and that, I called him, I said, did you forget about me? He said, no, I fell asleep on the.
He called at 4 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start.
I'll tell you a story.
Maybe with cocktails.
The way my day started, or the whole day. So this morning about 7:45, my boss calls me. I'm on the phone with him, and I usually have my cell in my pocket. I'm like, darn it, Mike, I think I left my phone home. He goes, you're on it.
Oh, no. I hate when I do that.
So needless to say, he called everybody and they called me. So,
Too much of that gel coating you're doing.
yeah, a little styrene buzz going.
Funny smell there.
So you don't have to spread that around, please. Thank you. But we'll move on, Bob.
Going through Hampton the other day, I was very happy with what I saw. Good to see that coming along.
Did you miss that?
See the elevator starting to be worked on.
I was supposed to do that Tuesday afternoon.
We could probably get another one if you wanted to go.
Glad to see the elevator starting, and
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad they're there, yeah. That was-
and I'm glad to see that they're hiring local people for the key positions there.
Yep.
All from me.
From you.
Thank you.
Mick?
May the 4th be with you.
Tomorrow's Cinco de Mayo.
That's true.
Don't forget that.
I've never seen a Star Wars movie.
Oh, boy.
Not a Star Wars guy. Not a Trekkie.
How do you know?
I was just going to say that. You don't know if you are. You've never seen them.
But I've seen Private Ryan like 100 times. So.
Into it.
Pam?
Oh, I did have one last question. Do you know if the bed and breakfast at the corner of Fifth and Pine, I think she's calling it Chandelier, but did they ever get their last inspections? Are they open for business? or-
I can double check. That was an approved bed and breakfast that you guys did?
Yeah,
Fifth and Pine?
Fifth and Pine, yeah.
Okay, I'll look into the permits.
No, that one's
Thank
taking
you.
forever to get done, wasn't
But
it?
it's
been
beautiful.
6 years. It's been 6
Yeah,
years. She did a lot of work on it. My question is, because she doesn't have a sign up on it,
Mm-hmm.
but she's got reviews on the internet about it.
Okay.
And I was just wanting to make sure that it's,
On the kitty corner from
I think it's the old, what, a Stanton House or something like that?
Could be a haunted house. So.
The haunted house. Could be haunted.
Good.
Yeah, I was just curious, because,
You're check that, storage unit out there behind Goodwill. Have they completed all their stuff? Because their permit should about be up again too.
Yeah, I know that they were approved with phasing to get the sand mining done, and they've done a lot, but we do need to follow up with
What's
him
that?
again.
Which one is
Joe
that?
Hayes, the 12th Street storage guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know they've moved a lot of dirt, and it looks like they've gotten things
I-
starting to be stabilized. It looks like all their buildings are done, but I'll follow back with him and try to get a final inspection if
Yeah.
he's ready for it this year.
Yeah.
Before they start building their one by the hospital.
Yes, there is. Yes. They just got their permit for that.
Thing when the bill went by the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah, because I don't see the green, trees and stuff that they were supposed to put.
Yeah,
in.
they're supposed to have trees out front, and those trees
trees
did
out.
not make it through last
No.
year. He had told us when Nancy and I met with him last summer that he was gonna replant the trees and everything once they got a lot of that dirt moved up into the front, which I know they've done now. So I'll follow up with him
But I
again.
don't know if trees and stuff like that are to any nurseries to be able to put anything in either, so we can get a hold of them all.
Buy the trees from the city.
Shall we?
Yeah,
Yeah, he can buy the trees from the city. they're
Yeah, that's
gonna
true.
say.
Yeah,
and they're reasonably priced.
yeah, they're only like $50, I think, and they'll drop them off with a water bag and everything, so.
Nothing? Marlene?
The list.
Oh, I got a little list here. Well, let's get back to dumpsters. So, are the schools exempt in this?
Yes,
They are.
schools, public schools are exempt from zoning. I've thought about the Catholic school, but their dumpsters are all not public or visible from the public right away.
Yeah.
Because when I take recycling, sometimes I'm like, oh wait, that, and then I'm like, no, I don't have to worry about that dumpster. Stop thinking about dumpsters. But yeah, the public schools do not have to. They're kind of exempt like a government entity that they don't necessarily have to adhere to zoning. They
Well, how about
control
that
their
one
own
that's by the,
properties.
Old Huntington Bank there, that parking lot.
The old Huntington Make off First Street,
Yeah.
It's gone.
it's gone.
They just took the dumpster away.
Yep,
Okay.
that was one that they had gotten a ticket that was dismissed because they indicated they were gonna switch to bins. They didn't really need the dumpster, so they pulled that one. I actually checked that a couple weeks ago and it was gone.
I haven't looked at it lately, so.
Yeah, so pretty much everyone is wrapped up. There's one on 39 East Street that I had followed up with her, the lady who owns the property, because they indicated they were gonna move the dumpster and her tenants hadn't made that occur, so she said they were gonna get right on it. I think they were the last one. I think you guys and the 39 East were the last ones and we're good to go, so.
I talked to Chief Glass, and he'd like to come in for June, our June
Okay,
meeting.
yep.
And the 155 8th Street that was a nice visit. Tim and Lisa did a great job on their 4 apartments. So, and the reason I called Chief Glass was because of the White House to the south of him. There's things blowing in, which brings up a point. The garage is over Tim's property. The
An
overhang.
existing garage?
Yep.
Okay.
So I know in the past that we've had people put up rain gutters to get the water away from.
I can talk to Tim about that, and I can also talk to Bill about enforcement. I know that we did do enforcement on a residential property regarding water runoff.
Yeah.
So if that's something that the city wants to pursue, I can look into that and see if we can't get them to put some gutters on that building to
That'd
make
be
sure they're
helpful.
controlling runoff on their own
'Cause it's
property.
It's right next to their house.
I mean, yeah, you can touch it.
Well, there's
Open the
one,
window.
there's one I did a survey in town where the water was running off of one house onto the other.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had an open house thing for us, but I know the houses on each side of it, when they got red tagged to stop work, nothing ever has been done. What is the status on them? Are they?
That would not be something that I'm entirely aware of. I know when they get red tagged, if they're not, sometimes even when a building is not occupiable, deemed unoccupiable, it's not necessarily blight. If it's, the building is secure, even if it's not the most pretty thing, they can't necessarily go after it. So I would follow up with Chief Glass to see if there's anything being done on those. But ultimately, if it was like red tagged and someone just boarded it up and stopped working on it or stopped living in it, sometimes that's not entirely considered blight and they can't really take it much further. But we can see if those are a couple houses, and those are the houses right around 155 8th. I can follow up with Chief Glass and see if those are on their radar being addressed or if it's something they
Well, and
can't
the blue
address.
house used to be one house and they tore the middle out.
Yep.
So now it's 2 houses again, and I know they
Oh.
didn't get a permit.
Yeah.
The rest of it may have been just hauling out tons of
Okay, yeah,
stuff.
that one is intended to be renovated. They do have an active land use permit. That's actually at, that would be on your list here for 149 8th Street, and he is proposing to reattach the two
Again?
houses,
Oh.
yes, and make it one. And put an addition on the back.
Doesn't it have a foundation?
No, it's.
So, yeah, I know that one's underway, but I'm not sure how far along they're really moving with renovating it. But there is someone who's trying to put an addition on and improve it, so hopefully they'll bring the whole thing up to looking nice.
Well, it'd be the first time in 100 years that it did. Because it didn't look nice when I was growing up as a kid, 70 years ago.
It wasn't,
No.
no. It wasn't.
Right now, 'cause
I mean-
I was looking at it Saturday, 'cause- and right now, all it's got is like a frame or some dirt behind the house. And I didn't know if that was a porch they were taking apart or trying to put on.
Oh, no, wow.
That's an addition they're trying to put on
But it's
the
sitting
back of
on the dirt,
149
there's
8th
no-
Street.
There's no foundation or anything, it's
The whole
just.
house
The
doesn't.
whole house has no foundation.
Yeah, I don't know.
It kinda just sits on almost little piles, is all it's sitting on, little pilings.
Disgusting.
I don't even think this, I don't think the addition even has
I
that
can't
on
think
it.
of,
It's sitting on the bare
I can't
dirt.
picture it, I don't have it down there.
There's a sitting in the middle.
Thanks for setting up the visit to the Hampton.
Yeah.
So thank you, that was nice. I mean, they have some way to go, but,
Yeah,
When
it's
she's
cool to
done,
see it
she's
in
gonna-
progress.
so, a lot since, what, December when we went through? Was
Oh
it
gosh,
been that
I think it was.
Wow.
I think it was before the winter because I feel like it
rainy.
was starting to get cold out, but wasn't
It was
quite.
raining.
We went
But I
through,
can't
it's
remember
windy,
exactly.
The wind was blowing through all the windows
Yeah.
when we were there,
Yeah.
and the snow was coming through.
It was.
Okay, so it must have been some of the first snowfalls when you guys
on that
went.
one,
Because
that
I know the day I went the first time, it was like sunny and really nice up there. And I got some really cool
Cold.
pictures.
Force winds.
Now we're there.
Yeah, 2 for 2.
Yeah, right.
And then DDA tomorrow, the streetscape. Tomorrow at West Shore Building downtown. And I just noticed this today, that the building on First Street, the storage building, the old Ringo Oil Company is up for sale.
Oh,
Big
okay.
brown
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
turd, basically.
Well, hopefully someone will buy it and fix it up.
So if it is sold,
Needs to be brought up.
what can we do? Can we, I mean, who knows if they're gonna fix it up or just use it as is? Is there anything that can be done?
Well, I know that I had asked Chief Glass about that one when you had inquired about it a couple meetings ago, if that's like on their list for blighted structures. He said they'd take another look at it, but he kind of had the sentiment, as I was describing before, that sometimes when something's ugly, it's not necessarily blight that they can go after. I know that building does have a couple holes, like when you drive by, you can see there's holes in it, so like,
And the roof is caving in on
Okay.
the left corner as well.
so,
First and,
There's more bad than good in that building.
yeah, I can ask him about that one again when I ask about the blighted properties around 155 8th Street. I'd imagine it'd be treated just as if current owners, like if it's something that the police department is looking to tackle, like that would probably be the responsibility of whoever owns it at that time. I don't think that a transfer of ownership would affect their, like course of action for blighted buildings. But that'd be something that they would have to tackle through blight elimination. I don't think that this commission or myself could really implement anything to make someone clean up a building like that.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's right on the main thoroughfare.
Right.
The hotel opening that building is awful.
At least a nice paint job would help.
And some windows and
Paint the
roof and, other than that,
Yeah.
All right, that's all mine. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Motion,
Second.
second, it is 8:36.
36.